I think I'm on live chat.
Now you're live. Say hello.
Hi, everybody.
Peggy's getting her tablet sorted out.
I'm just getting everything sorted out.
How is everybody?
All right, and I have to wait for like 2.5 minutes or whatever. Oh, Donna's here, and she's very happy to be here and loves all of us. Hi, Donna. Lisa's my Lisa's here. Let me see. Jen, the middle-aged baby witch, is here. The Tarot Magician is here. Tarot Cat Moon is here. Raw Spirit. Hi, Erica. Somewhere in time. Hi, Carolyn. Did I get that one right? Did I finally remember your name? Did I get it right? Somewhere in time?
Yes.
Yay.
You're asking me. You should ask
well, I'm asking you because if I embarrass myself, I can apologize right away.
Oh, good call.
Yeah. Okay. So.
How is everybody?
How is everybody today? Christmas is over. Yeah, because our last one was just before Christmas. Now it's just after Christmas, and we're all in recovery mode. So there's that. I have tea. It's directly behind me, and now that I'm settled in, I can't get it without kicking things. So I might just die of thirst. That'll be fine.
Did you forget your tea?
No, it's at a weird angle.
Oh, so you just can't reach it without contorting yourself?
Yeah.
But that's entertaining for us, so that's fine. Hi.
She's over there grinning at me like,
Okay. She's gonna figure out her tea now. This way you can be caffeinated. You need caffeine for this discussion, I feel like.
This is a caffeinated tea, isn't it? Oh my God, I'm going to need caffeine for this one. This is going to be a weird one, guys. But it's weird in a whole lot of ways that I wasn't expecting. So it's going to be interesting.
I want to know who's excited for this chat.
Yeah, who's excited? Who's excited for the topic of a flat Earth? Okay. So
or at least of the theory.
What?
I said, or at least excited about hearing about the theory.
I found it really super interesting. Not in the ways that I thought I was going to, because there's actually a lot of misconceptions. Okay. We should probably start with the poll of who actually, we'll start with the poll, who believes that the Earth is flat? And I don't think anybody's going to raise their hand here. I can't.
Well, you never know, so leave the table open. You never know.
No, that's true. That's true. I mean, there's nothing wrong with leaving the table open because, it's like there's plenty of us in here that believe in things that other people would tell us we're nuts for believing it too. So there's that. Anyway, did the chat did the chat? I don't know if I think my tablet doesn't like the chat.
It does better on portrait mode, I think.
Yeah, no, I think the chat just keeps locking up for me. Or it's like, dude, this is flat Earth shit. I'm listening. I'm not talking. But
that's fair. This is a tricky topic.
Yeah. Well, the last thing I see is you saying hello, and then Erica.
There's more since
I
then.
thought so.
Yeah, you need to refresh your screen for sure. Jen, the middle-aged baby witch, says, "Oh man, I hate to say it, but if you believe the Earth is flat, I'm going to judge you so hard."
Okay, let me see what I got going on here. You know what it is? Because I don't think I can refresh this.
You have to go out and back in.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, chat's moved on, so. Oh, Tarot Cat Moon, your dad's back home. That's good to hear. Okay. Aw, I missed all the fun part with the greetings, and now I get to go on to the controversy stuff.
That's
not
your
fair.
job. Your job is to lead the controversy stuff.
It's kind of fun. Okay, so Jen, the middle-aged baby witch. I think you're only Jen in today. There was some really interesting points that got made, not points that I agree with, but that you can't help but to go, wait a minute, that's kind of interesting. It was weird. It was really weird because it was really weird. But so I think as a topic, it makes it pretty obvious what the deal is. People think the Earth is flat. Apparently, they did a survey. And they went around to various colleges and universities. And I do have a couple of links in my book. Lisa, okay, I'm on my tablet, and Lisa has both computers, so that because we both have laptops, so that she can run a bit of a command center over there. There is reference to a poll in an article that I bookmarked.
You bookmarked.
It'll be just on my other bookmarks bar if you can find it.
Got it.
Or if you just want to look up flat Earth.
What about the Denver conference?
I believe so. Oh, that one's got a really cool picture that you're going to want to show later. Okay. So you'll want that one because you might want to get the picture. Anyway, there's several really interesting things about flat Earth as a theory. When they went around and did a bunch of polls, they polled something like 10,000 people. And what they discovered was that 2% of people definitely, distinctively agree that the Earth is flat. 2%. Now, in a country like the United States with 300 million people, that's 6 million people believing that the Earth is flat. But they also asked the question, do you believe that the Earth is round? And you know how they do those? Have you ever seen those polls where they kind of ask questions, and they were asking questions based on if you were to be presented with evidence proving that the Earth is round or whatever, do you definitively believe that the Earth is round? And only 60% of the people said yes. So there's a whole bunch of people in the middle that are willing to say, I don't know, which was really, really interesting. And of the people that are willing to say, I don't know, and this is where it got weird, of the people that are willing to say, I don't know, the majority of those people were in the 18 to 25-year-old range. So it's like, and everybody's going, well, because they're young, they're not educated, they're this, they're that. But yet we've already proven that, like, we have more access to education now for our young people than we ever had as adults. It was really weird. So that just kind of, okay, so that's a completely separate little nugget all by itself. I really don't know what to make of that. I think it's more for shits and giggles type thing. Like, I mean, I can do a poll and ask anybody anything, but that doesn't mean the person responding is telling me the truth of what their opinions really are. So I just thought it was interesting that any poll of any kind could get back a result that found that 2% of people believe the Earth is flat, definitively. And of the people that believe the Earth is flat, the majority of them are either Christians or college and university students or graduates. Like, in the, you know, like it kind of corresponds with the number of people that identify as being part of anarchist movements and things like that. So that was weird too. Anyway, so the theory itself, yeah, Rapper Bob is a flat earther. Oh, there was another singer who's a flat earther, or there's a wrestler, I think, or a boxer who's a MMA fighter who's a flat earther. There's people that believe in a flat Earth, but the really interesting thing, okay, so yeah, somewhere in time. What? That's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy that there are people that believe in a flat Earth, and there's people that it's crazy that there's people that are advocating it. But there's two things. So I kind of couldn't take the topic seriously. I still don't. And I know that's not really very fair. Like, I mean, we did a chat just a couple weeks ago about Bigfoot. We're going, oh yeah, I think it's reasonable to assume that there might be undiscovered animal life in the forests of the United States and around the world. And yet it's like, no, it's absolutely, it's like absolutely imperative that we believe the Earth is round, which I don't believe the Earth is flat. But it's kind of interesting how we have this divergence of, I want you. I thought it was really interesting. So basically, once I started looking into why people believe the Earth is flat, this divergence made a lot more sense. So the flat Earth theory in itself is that the Earth is flat. The Arctic is the center. The Earth itself, and there's various ideas on whether the Earth is flat or whether it goes out into a bowl shape or whatever. And then the Arctic, I mean, the Antarctica is not a landmass at the bottom of the pole. It's actually a wall that stretches all the way around that encompasses what is our Earth. And that's the belief in a nutshell. Now, maybe people don't know this, but there's already math that confirms a flat Earth, because, and this is where math becomes not math. Like, in the early Greek times, they believed that the earth was flat, but they also had that they also developed some of the most sophisticated math that we still base our mathematic principles on today. Like the Pythagorean theorem was Pythagoras, he was Greek. So they had the belief that the, yes.
Caroline asked.
Oh, I'm sorry. Caroline, don't we know that the planets are a sphere already? In flat earth thinking, they are either dots and they're flat, and we just don't we're just not observing them properly, because one of the proofs of a flat earth is that the moon is locked in a tidal the moon and the earth are locked in a tidal rotation. So the moon rotates around the earth, but it doesn't rotate. That's why we always see the same face. So on flat earth theories are the moon, this is what the moon, we are here, the moon is here, and we don't know what the back looks like. Because, and this will go back into the theories in a minute. The theories, basically what really fuels a lot of the flat earth theories is distrust of government. And most of our round earth theories are based on evidence and calculations brought back by government funded groups like NASA. So if you take NASA,
you said NASA.
I said NASA. It's like, okay, so if you take NASA and you take every single thing that they have discovered and throw it out the window, and you take government and everything that they've discovered, throw it out the window, and you take modern science, which is funded, and it's true, a lot of scientific organizations receive some level of government funding. So if you take all of that science and throw it out the window, we're now back in the 3rd century BC in Greece, watching mathematicians calculate the movement of the planets and the stars from our vantage point as the center of the universe, using real math, because it's, the Greeks used real math to calculate complicated orbits to facilitate their idea of a flat earth. And so here's where things get weird. Not weird, it gets weird again. So yeah, the dark side of the moon. They just don't believe it, because we can't, okay, they're more based on, okay, and this is one faction over here, right? So this is not necessarily, this is evidence and proof that they're bringing to the table to prove that the earth is flat, by rejecting any scientific
examples,
advancements.
Oh wow.
Yeah, oh wow. that were facilitated by government organizations or government activity. They're just projecting it out of hand. So before we were able to send a satellite to the dark side of the moon, we knew the moon was round, but sending a satellite all the way around gave us that 360-degree view and could prove it, and that's what NASA did, and flat earthers don't believe it. So basically, how civilization has essentially worked when it comes to flat earth is, you have a civilization, they believe the evidence of what they know and understand, and for any less advanced civilization, your world begins and ends with the largest body of water that you can't cross. So then you form models and base it on your understandings, your religion. Religion plays a huge part in this. Your religion, your mythologies, your this, your that. So the Greek, okay, so Christians had the firmament, they had the dome of the sky, they had, like, the Bible talks about a flat earth. So various mythologies talk about a flat earth, talk about it being in layers like this. So you start off with this, then you start building math, then you start building sophistication, you start building math and science and things like that. And your first step is to use your science to understand what you believe, and then later on you understand that you had a poor understanding of it and your beliefs change. So it's evolution of a society. What we're seeing with flat earthers, hey, that'd be cool if I was actually seeing stuff. What we're seeing from flat earthers is the de-evolution of thinking to, they want to bring everything backwards. So the flat earth belief, we're flat, we're flat, the earth, to most flat earth thinking, there's no actual greater universe. This is us, there's a dome of the heavens, and all we're seeing is little lights on the dome. They're not really, they don't really acknowledge the other planets. So basically, so let's go. So where am I at on that? Okay, so, ooh, if you trust the government, you obviously failed history class. Yes. So number one, anarchists, a lot of anarchist thinking. I don't know what other word to use. Anti-government people who have a deep and abiding distrust of government are more likely to embrace flat Earth as a theory, because if you don't trust the messenger, you don't trust the message. So there's group number one. Group number one just simply is anti-government. They just don't believe the government. They believe that NASA was a hoax, just as a way to win the Cold War. They believe that the government's been lying. They believe that there's something out there that the government knows about, and they're keeping it from the people as a way to keep power, things like that. So they don't believe it. So basically, if you say, well, blah blah blah, NASA proved this, it's like, oh, NASA's run by the government. You can't believe them. They're a fraudulent organization. If you don't believe in the moon landings, if you don't believe the moon landings were real, or anything, or the Mars missions are real, if you don't believe any of that stuff is real, then there's nothing about NASA that you're going to listen to. So that's number one. And this is surprisingly, this is the fucked up part. Conspiracy theorists. I'm not big on conspiracies. Yeah. So, okay, so I'm not really watching the chat the way I should be. So don't forget, if there's anything that you want me to see or hear or whatever, let Lisa know. And so that she'll let me know. Okay, so basically where we're at, okay, the name of the channel is Ponderings, and this has definitely required a lot of pondering to make sense of where the thinking is. So we have this anti-government, I hate the government, that I distrust the government so much that I distrust any science that the government supports. That's group number one. So this is a pretty this is verging on a level of extremism. The other group is is religious. It's a religious-based thing where the Bible and the Quran and dozens of other religions, it's not just a Christian phenomenon. There's plenty of religions out there that believe, or there's plenty of religions out there and people within those religions that believe that their religious text is the literal word for word truth and should not be questioned. So there are groups of people within Christianity who believe that the Bible is the literal truth, that everything written in it should not be questioned no matter what they're saying. And the Bible mentions a flat earth, mentions the dome of heaven, mentions the something about the mountains. It basically, and now modern Christians recognize that, well, that as a Christian society, they translated their books in a way that would accommodate their belief of their observational science, their observational opinions. So we got the religious-based group, and oh yeah, Carolyn, even back in Greece, even in ancient Greece, they understood that they initially thought the world was flat for the first however long, and then as their society developed, they understood that it was round. They redeveloped their math and proved it, and then Greece kind of declines. Like the Egyptians knew the world was round, and so did the Phoenicians. The Vikings knew the world was round.
But Carolyn says that even in the book of Genesis, it says the earth is a sphere.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't look up the verses. There are some verses in the Bible that talk about the earth in a way that could be assumed. Okay, don't forget, could be assumed. We're playing like the Bible is a 2,000-year-old telephone game where we're taking documents that were written in the first to 5th century AD and translating them and retranslating them and retranslating them. So our modern Bible, I know for a fact there are verses that refer to heaven as being above the earth, hell as being below the earth, about the boundaries of the earth. There's different things in the Bible that if you were an absolute literal thinker with absolutely no willingness, then it's my understanding, and You know what? I was so busy. I mean, it was a busy week to begin with, but it's like I really don't want to have. I don't really want to go into religion too horribly much, because even the vast majority of Christians have a huge problem with these guys. So she's sneezing. It's cute. Anyway. Oh, Barb's here. Hi, Barb. Yeah, I'm just kind of getting started. Basically, nutshell. I keep starting over for people. Basically, nutshell version. People believe the Earth is flat. Half of them are anti-government people that are so extreme in their anti-government thinkings that they do not believe any science that the government supports or claims to have, like NASA as a government organization. Well, therefore, anything NASA has discovered is obviously a lie and designed to control the people. And we're kind of onto right now the religious element. So I would have to look it up, and I was lazy about looking up. Yes, dear.
I have a few different maps from the wiki on flat Earth theory that like from different. I don't know if you've looked at any of these. You want me to put any of them up as pictures?
Sure.
Okay. So this first one.
What am I doing here?
Let's go like this. Oops. Let's go like this.
Okay, I do have my sound.
So did you see this one?
I might be a little bit behind.
Oh
yeah, things like that. Basically, yes.
So these different maps are from basically different cultures, and I didn't want to interrupt your flow. Are you planning to hit that?
I sort of kind of did. Basically, every race, culture, religion, every group, regardless of how that group was situated or based, had a period within their history where they believed the Earth was flat. It was because if you're talking like 7,000 years ago, before scientific development, you're only going to understand the world as you can observe it. So it was very common for almost even civilizations that today. Oh, this one, Imago Mundi, Babylonia, the oldest known world map, 6th century. So when you see a map like this, you're going to go, well, this is proof that they believe the Earth was flat. It's like, and it probably is. So I don't want, and like I said, I don't want to dwell too much on the religious aspect of it, but these are people who have an absolute and sincere belief that the Word of God is that the Word of God as written in the Bible or the Quran or the Mahabharata or any other. There's more religions. There's more than just 2 religions in the world. There are also people within the Jewish faith, because the Jewish faith matches our Old Testament, which is where most of these references come from. There's people of every faith that believe the Earth is flat based on what their religious texts have to say about it. Yes, dear. Illustrates based on a 12th century Asian cosmographer. Yes. So basically, these are ancient civilizations with a limited ability to observe and a limited toolbox from which to make those observations, believing that once they leave their observable sphere, that the Earth just simply ceases to exist and either just stops or goes under. So what we have right now in flat Earth thinking, what we have right now is, if you reject modern science as a fiction designed to control the people, which is where this gets, and this is where it crosses the line from. This is an interesting possibility in scientific thinking. Like I said, Bigfoot, interesting possibility in scientific thinking. Even tarot, which most of us in here have an interest in tarot. We can have our own thoughts and views, but then when you go into more religious circles, oh, that's evil, you're evil. But it's not as tangible, it's not as measurable, it's hard to describe. So anyway, so I'm really trying hard. I really decided, it's really, really easy to go, wow, those guys are nut jobs, and some of them probably are, but I consciously decided, in order to give the topic a fair shake, why do they believe this? Who's believing this? What are they believing? Why are they believing it? So the answer is, these are generally people who you would not. Everybody's got an Uncle Billy Bob in the corner somewhere, or talking about the Earth is flat and wearing the tinfoil hat. They are amazingly articulate. They are sincere in their beliefs. Oh, and there's the third piece. We'll get on to the third piece in just a second. But there's actually a surprisingly high number of educated people that believe in this theory. And we're talking about people that, aviation, there's one guy that's heavily involved, and I didn't think to write down his name. Like I said, we've just been busy all week, and I'm not really interested. It's kind of, I don't know. I tried my best to be fair, but it wasn't always possible. But the guy was like an aviation mechanic for like 20 years, believes the earth is flat based on his So, okay, so flat earth. Oh, and the third group of flat earthers, which is by far the biggest group, are people who are just in it for shits and giggles. They really are. It's just fun with science, fun with math. It's just fun and fuckery, and they're not taking it seriously. Now, the not taking it seriously crowd, this comes basically out of the 50s, where it was like, like you're in the middle of the Cold War, and you're hoping that the Russians don't drop a nuke on your head. Well, NASA just put a man on the moon. That's going to end the Cold War, and you're sitting there going, "Well, I hope it was real. I hope we really do. I hope we really do have that science, because, if we're going to do this, we need to keep going." So, a lot of the original flat Earth theories came through various, like the one that I'm specifically going to talk about was a theory, was an experiment that was done in like, I think it was 1857, called the Bedford Canals experiment. We'll get on to that one in a minute. Oh, hi, Kay. Kay's in. So, yes, major. Oh, that was, fun and fuckery. And yeah, major distrust in government. So fun and fuckery. Now, I personally remember back, and I think I was still in high school, and the concept of flat Earth society and flat Earth people and flat Earth thing, because the flat Earth society was founded, I believe, in 1956. I graduated high school just a few years after that. I'm not that old. Hearing about stuff like that, and it was fun. It was funny. So you look it up and you go, because don't forget, no internet. So you're reading about it in some magazine. The one magazine the one article that I linked is from a magazine that wrote no less than like six. No, that was a different thing. 6 miles, 11 articles over the years on the flat Earth theory. Another magazine, I think it's The Guardian. No, was it not The Guardian? Because I wasn't really, I'm not. We can talk about the reputations of the sources. I just wanted the information as it's available. Anyway, like what was the other article? Anyway, so different organizations putting out different articles over the years about the Flat Earth Society. Some of the Weekly World News, which was a sham newspaper that posted fake articles, wrote articles about flat Earth theories all the time. I used to call that magazine comic books for grown-ups, because they were hilarious. So people weren't taking it seriously back then. They were finding it. Is anybody in the to hear about groups like the Elks Club, the Moose Club? I mean, we have the Masons, which are kind of a social organization. And then you have the Fraternal Order of Moose, the Fraternal Order of Elks, and all these different social type groups that sprang up in the 50s and 60s, just as, find a gimmick, support the gimmick, build a club over it, and now you've got a social club. That was the thinking, and that was the thinking in like the 70s. I don't know what was there before that. I don't really even care. Yeah, Elks, oh my God, Elks, Mooks, and Eagles. So anyway, that's the third group. Now, I don't know where the third group is on that anymore, because anybody who is in it for shits and giggles is pretty quiet about it, because they don't want to be associated with the anti-government extremists or the religious extremists. But again, surprisingly high levels of education are going into this, more so than you would think. Intelligent, articulate people who can actually put 3 words together and not mess them all up. Yeah. So yeah, according to Corey Good and David Wilcock and many others, there are actually bases on the moon. The dark side of the moon is said to have many alien bases on it. Yeah, like, I mean, so there's that. Like, I mean, there's so, okay, there's so many conspiracies related to this. Like, if you ask, like, flat earthers believe, a lot of flat earthers do believe in aliens, but they believe that they come from inside the earth or just beyond the mountains that are ringing the earth. The theories get pretty woo-woo pretty quickly, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise, so that's fine. But what we have is why is it so easy to convince them of this? Well, if you reject government funded and government supported science as government trying to control the people, then you're left with observational science. You're not left with a lot. You're probably left with about as much as a pre-global Greek society or Egyptian society had, because the observational science required to prove that the earth is round is a little bit more than what's there are experiments that are accessible to Joe Public that can prove certain things, but the experiments that I can do and on my own time and my own comfort is more likely to support a flat earth than a round earth. Apparently you have to be, to actually observe this, you have to be between 30 and 50,000 feet up in the air, which isn't possible. Which isn't possible without a plane ticket. And even with a plane ticket, in order to observe the actual curvature, you have to have a view of about 60 degrees of space around you. So basically, you're talking a first class ticket on a perfectly cloudless day on a jetliner that cruises at 40 to 50,000 feet. It's expensive. And not everybody can see that. So when you take a look at what you can see, well, you go down to the biggest lake you can find. At ground level, there are people that claim they can see the slightest of bulges, which is dubious at best, and only if you have absolutely perfect eyesight. At ground level, you're not going to see this curvature. What you're going to see is, as things move away from you in the distance, they'll go off. So you'll see a boat going off in the distance, and then you'll see less and less of the hull, and then eventually you're just going to see only the mast as it follows the curvature around. But you have to have perfectly clear conditions. You have to have pretty flat water. It's not a perfect observation, but people are using those as their perfect observations. Yes, dear. The thing is, you can fake anything nowadays. Fake pictures, fake videos, or computer generated anything. So I can see how someone that really believes the government lies about. Yes, and this is the problem. This is where the flat earthers. And like I said, it's not about whether or not you agree. It's not about whether or not you agree with them, but it's like there's a small part of me that goes, well, they do have a point. There's things that government in general involves itself in, and then calls it a state secret and refuses to let the public know what's going on. So it's like, well, we have conspiracy theories about alien bases on the dark side of the moon. And here's why people embrace those theories, is because, well, if there really was an alien base on the backside of the moon, NASA would have found it, they would have reported it to the government, and they certainly wouldn't report that information to the general public. It just wouldn't have been disclosed. So it's like, if NASA went behind the moon and discovered that because separation of church and state exists in most governments worldwide. This is where things get really, really like Twilight Zone. If NASA goes behind the moon and finds out that it's just a flat disk pointed at us with nothing behind it, whatever the hell, fitting whatever flat earth theory is there, then suddenly the Bible that the extremists have believed is the literal truth is suddenly the literal truth, and everything about our modern society is suddenly a fucking problem. You know what I mean? Or maybe you don't. Maybe I need to expand on that a bit. I don't know. But as a theory, flat earthers have a lot to gain if they're right. And they do sincerely believe that they're right. Like, we have a lot to gain by proving that the world is round. And if we can convince the flat earth thinkers that the world is actually round, it completely blows the wind out of their political beliefs, their social beliefs, and their religious beliefs. That's devastating. We're living in a world right now, and we can actually see this around ourselves. It's a proven mechanism that when you take a religion-based group of people, a group of thinkers, a society, what have you. So let's just put that on every scale that there is, and you come in and you engage in things that challenge their beliefs, they're more likely to become extremists in what they believe. So it's a proven byproduct. If something breaks down the things that somebody believes, but they're believing based on faith, like we saw this in the Middle East. We saw this in the Middle East with the rise of ISIS. These guys did not become extremists because they were extreme. They became extremists as a reaction to things that were breaking down their social and religious view of the world. So then they embraced their extremism because they just didn't want to be pulled away from the things that they've known their entire. They believed it. Their parents believed it. Their parents believed it. This is like 30, 40, 50, 100 generations of faith out the fucking window in one single generation. Sometimes they're going to. So some of these people are just like, no, I'm not going to give this up. I'm going to hang on to it tighter. That's what sometimes happens. What about people who don't think back in? Okay, what about also people don't think back in 1969 that we really didn't walk on the moon, and that the flag was blowing in the picture? Exactly. There's people that believe that. There's people that believe that the moonwalk was staged. But here's the thing: there's some logic behind the belief, which is where things get really fucking weird. So yes, dear.
Sorry, Jen was asking if you saw the link she posted on your 5 facts video.
I didn't. I fell asleep.
You took a nap.
I took a nap.
She's an old lady. She takes naps now.
I am going to go look though. Was this? Did you do? Did you look? You told me, didn't you? I haven't looked at it yet. I will be. I always go check afterwards because I'm nosy that way. Find out what you guys think. So when the moon landings happened, we were right in the middle of the Cold War. And like, they're making movies. Dr. Strangelove, they're making movies about atomic war. Like, it was crazy. So there were people that believe, well, the Earth is round and that's fine, but we don't actually have the technology to get to the moon yet. They faked it just to win against the Russians, because the Russians had already put a man in orbit, Yuri Gagarin. They'd already done that, and the U.S. had to outdo it. So there are conspiracy theorists who believe that whether or not we eventually reached the moon, that we didn't reach it when we said we did because it was just a Cold War stunt, which was unfortunate because both sides were engaging in Cold War stunts. It doesn't make it not true, but that is the thinking that fueled that conspiracy theory that it was a fake. And this is where this where it gets interesting, because these are not just mindless, these are not just Billy Bobs rambling over one too many beers. These are thoughtful people who have reasons for believing it, which gets really like I said, it's Twilight Zone. It's really crazy sometimes. So yeah, if the Earth was round, flooding wouldn't happen. Yeah, pours water over an orange. Oh yeah, they have some really fucked up experiments. The most famous experiment that proved a flat Earth, and it did. I'll explain why it didn't, but I'll tell you why it did, and then I'll explain why it didn't. Okay, so just bear with me, because I'm not jumping some. Who said like I'm gonna enjoy this one from outside the wagon? Okay, the Bedford Canal experiment was. Oh my God! I fell asleep and forgot to show you that link. Links to the Bedford Canal experiment was based on the idea. Okay, mathematically, once you get about 6 miles out in a body of water, the curvature of the Earth will mean that whatever you're seeing on that body of water starts to disappear. Like I said, we can't really see the horizons this way because we're looking forward. Like, if you look like that, it's not going to dip. It's going to still look straight to you.
This is an image of the Bedford Canal that I have up now.
Oh, okay. So the Bedford Canal is a 6 mile straight stretch of canal. Mathematically, and there's even a calculator, mathematically, if you're at ground level, looking straight ahead over a body of water, because of course the Earth, land goes like this. So there's nothing on land. There's nothing on land that can be used to prove it. The only way you can prove the curvature of the Earth definitively is over water. So the Bedford Canal goes straight for over 6 miles. At about just before or just after the 6 mile point is when things are supposed to be dropping off the horizon. So if you send a boat out 6 miles down, it's going to start dropping off the horizon, and then you're going to, I guess that's what I mentioned. You saw less and less and less of the hull. So you got the boat and you've got the mast. As it's going over the horizon line, you're going to see less and less and less and less and less as it follows that curve, right? The Bedford Canal experiment proved that the Earth was flat, because what they did, there it is. Okay, so the thinking is being, if the Earth is curved, after 6 miles on the canal, it's going to curve with it. So they put flag. I think they actually put a series of 5 flags, but I can't remember. They put a series of flags out, and they sent a guy, and they put an observer at each end. The idea being is that the flags shouldn't line up. It should be impossible. The Earth is going to curve. The flags can't line up, and they did. So it's like, oh, the Earth is flat. The Earth is flat. The canal, the Earth is it's flat. The water should have curved with the Earth, and it didn't. And it didn't. The water didn't curve with the Earth. They're going, what the hell happened? We don't understand this. So, oh, sorry, guys, I'm a little snippy. I may have to mute me so I can go make very, very loud nose blowing noises in a second. Anyway. Yeah, so.
I'll take care of it.
Yeah. So where we've got the Bedford Canal experiment basically demonstrates a flat Earth. They take this onto a road show. They go around, they tell everybody. Now, don't forget, and there's the fourth, by the way, there's the fourth motivator. There's 4 motivators for the flat Earth theory, and that is the Flat Earth Society and other similar organizations make a lot of money. They like somebody mentioned one of those guys doing a GoFundMe account to try and put a rocket up, because they want to do they have no problem with the science, but they want to do it themselves because they don't trust the government. Well, Joe Public cannot put a rocket up 50,000 feet. So there's that. So basically, people are investing in experiments that they can control. There's guys that are going down to lake shores and shining a laser or a really high power light or laser across lakes and ponds. And again, the Earth is flat. Look, it went straight across. Okay, so basically, fluid dynamics. So we're going to explain why this was mistaken. If you take 6 miles straight, a 6-mile canal, for starters, the water has to be level. It's not going to follow the curve. It's not going to follow the curvature of the Earth because it has an inlet and an outlet. A canal is by default flowing water. Liquids flow along the path of least resistance. So flowing water, even if it's only a few inches, even if the top is only a few inches above the bottom, it's going to create a straight line as it flows, path of least resistance. So because this was a canal cut into the landscape and leveled to allow for flowing water, the water can't curve. The water is not going to curve. The same as a lake, a pond. Any pond that's big enough to be 6 miles is no longer a pond. It's a lake. They have inlets, they have outlets, they have flow. So, and they're stationed in a body of water. And fluid dynamics is the reason why fluid dynamics is a field of study all by itself. And no, I'm not a scientist in fluid dynamics, so I'm going to stop very, very shortly. But a lake is by default has shores and then goes down to a depth. Yes. There's a really cool YouTube channel with guys who puts GoPros on balloons and launches them up into near space. You can see the curve of the Earth from this footage. Absolutely. I mean, these guys, okay, we are starting to see Joe Public with the ability to prove these things. And of course, the Flat Earth Society is a paid membership organization. They have yearly conferences where where people spend hundreds of dollars to go, thousands of dollars on their plane. It's profitable to believe in a flat Earth now. It's profitable to believe in a flat Earth, so it's profitable to ignore the results of these people unless the results match what they want to see. So the flat Earth as a theory back in the right up until say the 60s. And again, we have our conspiracy theories about the moon landings. So right up until about the 60s, it makes a lot of sense that there would be people that would be like dubious and not sure. It sounds ridiculous, but it makes sense. We haven't even, we have NASA, we have the government telling us that this is true. We have the Bible, we have belief in the Bible telling us that it's not. Don't forget, like creationists believe that the earth was created by God in 6 days. It's only 6,000 years old. They believe a lot of things, and there's a lot of, but even creationists believe that the earth is round, defying their own belief system sometimes, which is odd. Anyway, yeah, it gets really weird. It gets really weird, guys. So there's a lot of okay, this is gonna sound really fucked up. There's a lot of logic behind why they believe what they believe. If you believe that the government is just an evil entity out to control the people and that they're faking everything just to maintain that control, it's really easy to believe, well, it's possible that the earth is flat. If we can't trust if we 100% cannot trust any of our modern day science, then again, we're back to observational science and experiments like the Bedford Canal experience. You can't very easily. One of the biggest things, and one of the biggest things was like, one of the biggest proofs of a flat earth that they did was this guy parks himself on the beach, focuses on a ship that's out to sea, and like 15 miles later, he could still see the ship, and he's like going, well, what's going on? But what we forget about is, again, fluid dynamics. For starters, on the open, it's on the open ocean, there's waves, for starters. There's tides. So the tides basically create a bubble of water that follows the moon all the way around every day. When you really think of it, it's like there's the area, any area of water will reach up towards the moon. And I'm not sure what to call it because I'm not a scientist. So yeah, they talk about all kinds of weird stuff. So a lot of what it is just goes down to weirdness, but there are certain semi-famous experiments. There's a guy, and he's in the one article. There's a guy that actually did put together a rocket and send it up almost 2,000 feet. By his math, 6 miles is apparently long enough to just start showing the curve as things drop off the horizon. But 6 miles isn't enough to offset for things like wave action, tidal action, and things like that. And when and water dynamics in an enclosed area like a lake bed is not the same as water dynamics on the open ocean. So their experiments are basically, these guys are performing intelligent experiments as far as it goes, because they're leaving out key pieces, key variables that they need to be considering. You can I lived in Ontario. I lived down near Lake Erie, and you go down to Lake Erie, which seems like a really small lake on a map, and you can't see the other side. And on a clear day, from certain vantage points, you can see like the tops of structures. Like the one, I'm not sure what it was, but there was like a big industrial thing just on the opposite side of the lake, and in the right conditions, you could see it. You also have a lensing effect. Out here we live. Out here we live within sight of Mount Baker from certain vantage points, and depending on the atmospheric conditions of on any given day, the mountain can seem far away or really close.
Can you speak to the image I have up on the screen now?
Yes, oh, okay, yeah. See, this is where, okay, this is also where they've done their creative mathematics to say, because don't forget, we've got mathematical models going back thousands and thousands of years that explain the movement of the planets and the stars, and explain the movement of the sun. So they're embracing some of these models. But yeah, I don't know very much. This is why I kind of focused on the how and the why people are believing this versus the science. I don't know enough about the science to question it, which is a stunning. It's very my dog is snoring. Yeah, our brains are trained not to see the curve. That's why you have to be up like 50,000 feet to the point where it starts to get really defined. And we don't have a lot of aircraft that go that high up. Most people aren't going to have the opportunity to see that. So, but it's very they're engaging in these experiments that can explain. They're engaging in experiments that seemingly prove one thing by leaving out key factors that prove that the experiment was done incorrectly. But when this Bedford Canal experiment was done in 1850, whatever, fluid dynamics wasn't even a topic. Nobody understood fluid dynamics. That water goes up, water goes down. But if water is in a flat area, it should show a curvature without stopping to consider that the water flowing over a landscape is going to behave differently than water in an open ocean. What are you doing?
Reminding you to look at the camera.
Oh, hi. So, but it's very, if you're going to advocate for something, advocate for the thing that you can, okay, I'm not a scientist. So somebody who has invested time and energy, and if you look at if you scroll through the one article that I've got linked, and I think it's the one in my other bookmarks thing, you'll see a photo, and it's really, this guy put together a rocket. He put like $100,000 of his, he was doing various fundraising and stuff like that. He managed to raise like $100,000 to build this rocket and put it up at like 2,000 feet or something with really sophisticated cameras. That's it. This is what people are doing on their own time, on their own dime to prove. But I don't even know how to build that rocket. So you've got this educated, intelligent person who can put this together, get it up in the air, get some measurements, comes back down and says, see, it proved the earth was flat, because you don't know that little tidbit that, well, the curvature doesn't become apparent until you reach 30,000 feet, and your rocket only reached 2,000 feet.
1875, apparently.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was
1875 was what his could reach.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the Bedford Canal experiment. Yeah, so his rocket didn't go high enough up. It was that simple. He didn't reach a big enough altitude.
Mad Mike Hughes, this dude's name is.
Yeah. So you're a sincere person who is not sure on what you believe, and this Mad Mike says, well, I put a rocket up in the air. Here's the rocket right here. This is what I did, and I proved that the earth was flat, blah, blah, blah. And so now you've got, because what do we believe? Well, NASA is intelligent, educated people who are doing experiments and telling us what the truth is, and we believe that. Right? Bit of a mind fuck right there now, isn't it? So you got a guy, you got people who don't, you got people that sincerely believe in what the Bible says about the shape of the earth and and Carolyn's right. There are references that imply a globe, but there's other references that apply flat, right? The GPS satellites and the satellites for cell phones are private companies as well. Yeah, but we don't believe in that. We believe that they're secretly owned by the government. If we're a conspiracy theorist, maybe. There is a logical explanation for everything as to why all of this is fake. This is where it gets weird. This is where it gets really crazy. But the really interesting thing is, if you're coming to the table with a severe mistrust of government or a extreme but sincere view of the Bible, it's going to be very, very easy for you to go, well, yeah, but that's just NASA. NASA releases to the public? I don't think so. Do you really think the government gives this technology to the public? No. These are just government dummy corporations. You can convince people, like P.T. Barnum. P.T. Barnum said there's a sucker born every minute. If you have a sincerely held belief in something, it is really, really easy for other people to boost that belief, especially if they sound intelligent, especially if their methods and their thinking sounds I built a rocket and sent it up to 2,000 feet. Well, and here's the rocket, and the guy did it. The guy believed in he's a flat Earth believer himself. At least he says he is. He's a flat Earth believer himself, but he manages to fundraise a lot of money for his projects. So it's like, can't really make the accusation. He's a card-carrying member. So he's putting up a satellite, proves that the earth is flat, comes back, and people that distrust government believe in the Bible or a lot of things are going, okay, well, I can believe that because there's the rocket. There's the rocket, there's the video clip, and you're the guy who did it, and you're standing beside me believing what I believe. It's always easier to believe in the person that thinks like you do. I'm not going to say, well, I believe in blah, so let me go become best friends with somebody who believes the exact opposite and thinks I'm a lunatic for believing it. That's something else. Like, I mean, this is the inmates running the asylum, right? They're very vilified as a political stance. as a politically motivated way of thinking. The people that are in that camp are vilified in the politically motivated community, because they're bringing a level of extreme, they're bringing a type of extreme thinking that harms the reputation of anti-government people. From the religious standpoint, they're embracing a type of extreme thinking that takes away from the religious community. So these guys are vilified, but on all sides. So of course they're gonna circle the wagons, and they're only gonna believe people. They're only gonna believe the people and the theories and the experiments that support their beliefs, because they're not interested in looking outwards. The minute they step out of that little thing, they're lunatics. So you're not gonna, it really is the inmates running the asylum. They don't want to look out into the larger world for their answers, because the larger world is, it's so that's a little, that to me is a little sad. I'm not sure what to think about that. I don't know if being kinder would change their opinions. These are already people that we all have the tendency to have an extremely an extremely rigid opinion on something. Yeah, whale song. My dad taught me to question everything, believe nothing, find your proof. Work just as hard to prove and to disprove something. Yeah. What Donna say? I have to say, I'm not really comfortable with random dudes sending stuff up like that. What comes up must come down. And what if it takes something out when it crashes back down? I'm not sure about the nature of the experiment, but I do think that he went out to like the Utah salt flats or an area like that.
It was also supposed to be a manned rocket.
I don't think it was. Oh, he did. It was. He hurt himself.
He hurt himself? He's loud.
He's flat.
Twisted. Oh my God.
Anyway, so I think the belief, so the conspiracy theories around all of this, and this is where, and again, we're back. Let's go back to the Twilight Zone for a second. What if they're right? Because that's a huge mind fuck. Does that make sense? What if they're right? Now that does not, and it's like, well, they can't be. That doesn't bear thinking. That, this, that, and it's like, is that possible? Oh, very unlikely. I mean, it's. My 5 facts though. That planet, Humea.
Oh, let me pull that up.
In my 5 facts now, I like to do a 5 facts video. Now, this is not a fact that the Earth is flat video. This is a fact. The 5 facts that I presented were facts related to the theories, facts related, like the Bedford Canal experiment was mentioned as one of the 5 facts because it was used as proof of a flat Earth. And again, because the concept of fluid dynamics weren't taken into consideration for the experiment. It was a flawed experiment, but in the 1850s, when the experiment was done, they would have no way to know the experiment was flawed. And it made a lot of people really sit up and take notice. So one of the things was the Kuiper Belt. Is it quite? I think it has a slightly weird pronunciation, but it's the Kuiper Belt. Is a belt of asteroid debris and dwarf planets circling out in the vicinity of Pluto. And they found this object. They call it the Tic Tac, and it is the flattest rotating object that they are aware of. I just thought it was a fun fact, not because it proves a flat Earth, because it doesn't. It's a bit oblong and it's kind of oval shaped. But I just thought it was really fascinating that a body could exist that has such a severely flattened appearance. So that was cute. That was my little nod to, well, in theory. Now this object was believed to have been created through a collision, and it's elongated. They believe that there was a collision. It actually has 2 micromoons circling around. It's about 1/4 of the size of Pluto, they think. So it's got 2 micromoons rotating around it. So it's kind of going like this oblong thing. And what they believe is that after the collision, it orbits once every 3.9 hours. So it's got a really fast rotation. And the belief is, from their observations so far, the belief is that so a flattened object can exist And the flatter it gets, the more likely it is to just simply tear itself apart spontaneously because of its own gravitational pull. Yeah, there it is. So I thought that was cool. Who's saying what? Yeah, if it was proven that the world was flat, I would question my entire life and everything that I was ever taught. That's the thing that these people are struggling with already, which is really interesting because a lot of their thoughts and theories and beliefs are like as society becomes less and less religious people are grasping harder and harder at smaller and smaller straws, is how I view it. I have a certain sympathy for people that are just simply trying to hang on to their, because to prove to, if you take a flat earther and prove to them definitively that the earth is round, then their belief structure is now gone. It's kind of a catch-22. It's kind of, so this is more of a faith argument, faith in one hand, trust in the other, and that's where these theories come from. So that's what I found really fascinating, because I don't think this has anything to do with anything other than just an attempt by a group of people to control their own environment. It looks like a bar of soap. Yeah, apparently they call it the Tic Tac. But yeah, so they've theorized that there could be a flattened planet, but they don't think it can get very flat at all before tidal forces rip it apart. But they've also said that they don't think a planet bigger than blah can be a solid body planet, and yet they've discovered massive exoplanets in circling other stars. So who knows? There are scientists that say that it's entirely possible that we may find a very flattened version of a rocky planet somewhere, but nobody's taking it seriously. Anyway, so yeah, the whole Victorian society went through a major existential crisis when Darwinism came out. Flat Earth would be our version, exactly. So that's kind of, but yeah, what I really found was that the people that do the most to sit around, the Uncle Billy Jim Bob that sits around half drunk ruining Christmas for the family, that's one kind of flat earther, but most of them aren't like that. But also don't forget, there's the Flat Earth Society only has 650 members. It's not this widespread cult that we think it is either. It just gets a lot of widespread attention. So there's that. But yeah, so as a theory, a lot of the conspiracy around the Flat Earth Society is basically, yeah. What do they gain from this belief? Money? Okay, the Flat Earth Society, the people that run the show are obviously they profit, so they do have a financial stake in this. Everybody else, and people that are severely anti-government, just get some recognition that they're taking a stand against the government. Religious people are just trying to reinforce. They're just trying to reinforce their own religious beliefs and have something to hang on to. For most people, yeah, like people like me that find some of the ideas interesting, I'm only going to find them so interesting. What's going on? What'd you say? The only thing Flat Earthers have to fear is fear itself. Anyway, so I babbled a lot about religion. I babbled very, very little about the theories. Most of the theories are based. There are tons. I mean, experiments, virtual. They've done. These are guys that spend their weekends doing various experiments, and it's possible to do an experiment that will prove to you that the Earth is flat if you base it on certain things. Like again, and I keep harping on I'm absolutely harping on the Bedford Canal, because it's a flawed experiment, but nobody knew it was flawed at the time, and it caused a major uproar in the area, in that area at that time, because the belief in a flat Earth was way more widespread in the 1850s than it obviously is now. But so politically, the political side of it is, or the pseudoscience. What I think, it's as a theory, it's fascinating. As a theory, it's fascinating because what if it were true? It's not, but what if it was? But there. Oh, and there was actually a. I was trying to find this. There was actually a TV show that I watched. There's a couple of things. But there's a TV show that I watched years and years and years ago. I was a kid, and it was about this society. and something goes wrong, and our hero is like exiled from the village, or something like that. And I'm trying to remember what about it, but for some reason he's going into this taboo area, finds a wall. Goes along the wall, finds a door, and the door is open. Doesn't know what's going on. Goes back to the village and says, "Hey, I found this. And it's like, well, shit, you're not supposed to go there. That's taboo. You were not allowed to be there. So now you have to be exiled forever." So his only option is like, I can't survive here. If they find me, they'll kill me. So he goes out the door. And I forget just how and apparently there was a Doctor Who series that was focused on something similar. It turns out that he's on a giant ark ship of some kind with thousands and thousands and thousands of different civilizations, all living on flat dome-like structures on a giant alien spaceship going through space, having no idea that they're not on a solid world. And so that's kind of the science fiction that existed way back then. So much science fiction based on flat Earth, it's crazy. Don't mind me, I'm just being meme. What did you do? Are you being a brat? She knows I'm looking. Why is flat earther and religious people at odds with each other? I don't understand. I think that most people believe the earth is round. Yeah, most people believe the earth is round, but the flat earthers that are religiously inspired are using the segments of the Bible that talk about a flat earth, and they're an embarrassment to the rest of the Christian community. What are you doing? Finally got banned from the flat earth Discord by posting a forbidden image. Oh my god. Oh, okay, this is fun now. But yeah, no, it's kind of cool. Okay, you have to really disregard. Okay, so as a theory, there's very little to it. There really isn't. There's very little to it. There's a whole lot of reasons. If you look at why they think like this, there's a lot to it. In terms of religious acknowledgement or anti-government sentiment. In terms of the science looks awesome. When you look at the science, you're going, wow, that's because these are people that are using real math. These are people with real educations using real math, real physical models, real this, real that to put together the theories, because they're leaving out a key piece. And some of them might be doing it intentionally, but most of them aren't. But it's actually possible to prove that the earth is flat if you're basing experiments on only some things and leaving out others. Okay, whoa, what did you do? Yeah. Tragic FE, Bible is a flat earth book, 200 plus verses describing reality as it is versus none that support the imaginary globe. Yeah, and this is the belief that permeates the religious thinking behind flat earth. It is what it is. I mean, taking that, these are people whose beliefs are very, very rigid, and taking that away takes away their religion. So, checkmate. Anyway, so China is, no, the belief is, Erica, that everything is on a flat disk, and that the Antarctic is a protective barrier of mountains that ring our world and support a dome that goes up and over. And if you look, I mean, I should have actually done more to get more images that show that as a flat Earth concept. Can you look up biblical flat Earth and see if there's something in that? Mm-hmm. So, basically, religious doctrine says that's where hell is. Scientific doctrine says that it's just rock, like a giant bedrock structure holding everything up. But like Chinese, is it the Chinese that believe that we're on the back of a turtle? Other religions believe that we are on an egg, the top half of an egg, and that's been apparently cut in half. Did you happen to find a biblical?
There's tons of biblical references, but a lot of them are actually debunking the theories using scripture.
Oh no, absolutely. Here, this is the thing. Scripture doesn't support a flat Earth the way that we think it does. Only on an excessively,
There's some references to like the four corners of the earth, etc., being referenced, and if people think that that's flat Earth.
Tarot Catman, I think you could post flat Earth memes for days and it wouldn't stop being funny.
I'm really kind of having fun.
It's
so
really, it's yeah, no, it's crazy making stuff, and it's, I mean, and like I said,
but it makes sense that people would form this belief based on their personal culture or their personal belief structure.
There, you know what? When you
get it,
when you go into heavily religious, semi-tribal, underdeveloped areas, you will find that it's an extremely common way to think, because these are people that they don't have access to the internet. They don't listen. They don't have NASA on their NASA. They don't have the NASA app. They don't watch Neil deGrasse Tyson on TV. They don't see anything like that. So they, oh yeah, well, the Earth is flat. The Earth is flat, and there's pillars, and Hercules holds it all. I mean, Apollo is holding us up, and we're on the back of a turtle, and they believe it. They don't even question it, because this is what their religion says it is, and they've got no reason to question it. And the interesting thing is that it's not impacting their lives to believe it or not believe it, but it's impacting their religion to believe it or not believe it. So I think religious motivation is one of the primary things that actually fueled it all. The scientific thing, and like I said, I'll go back. The Bedford Canal is the only experiment that I really took seriously as a talking point, because it explains how and why a legitimately serious observation in 1850, based on limited knowledge of other sciences, could be taken seriously. And it was a repeatable experiment, and they took it pretty seriously. You add in the science of hydraulics and fluid dynamics, and suddenly it's like, oh, but here's what's wrong with your theory. So, and you get around that problem. It's a very neat sidestep to go, modern science is a sham because so that the government can control us, right? But chaos magic. Okay, what did I miss here? Oh, I gotta stretch my back. Okay, yeah, it makes sense that they're secluded. Earth being on the back of a turtle was an ancient Taoist. It was a Chinese belief, Chinese or Japanese. There's several cultures that believe that the Earth was on the back of a large animal that was holding it up. The thing is that imperfect experiments you can always rig an experiment to give you the proof that you want. We believe in things that everybody believes in something that you have to take on faith as true, and there's no way around that. So the belief in a flat Earth, I don't have a problem with the belief in a flat Earth. I really don't. I mean, people, it's literally a belief that harms none. Believing in a flat Earth harms no one. I have no problem with that belief. I have a problem that there are groups and organizations that profit financially from that belief. I think that that's not fair. I think that's a huge issue that we need to be aware of. And I think that by rejecting some science, these people are rejecting all science, even beneficial science, is a problem. But I think it's really, yeah, it's not a belief I can take seriously. It's not, I can be fascinated by the thinking and the concept, but there's no way I can take it seriously. That's fine too. To each their own. But I know Lisa's just being a brat. Yeah, unless they step off the edge. Well, here's the thing. This is the beauty of that belief. Who's going to go to Antarctica to even look for the edge? It's a pretty ideologically and physically safe belief to have. I mean, I don't see people that are in this. I don't see people that are advocating for this, advocating for violence. I mean, I think I would rather have an anti-government anarchist advocating for a flat Earth than for advocating violent revolution. So it's like, as beliefs go, it's pretty harmless. But yeah, Tragic, I appreciate your opinions, and I'm not sure, and having a little bit of good fun might not be your idea of fun, but I don't think anybody's trying to hurt anybody here. So I'd hate to have to block you. Let's just keep that in mind. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting. I think it's super interesting. I really do. I think I don't have to believe it to think it's interesting. But here's the funny thing, Carolyn, is not everybody knew that the Earth was round back then. We went through just as often as not. We went through periods where we believed it was flat versus, and it depended on where you were, what access to education that you had. There was a whole lot of things involved in it. So there was a whole lot of things involved in it's only really been in our modern times that the belief in a flat Earth has finally started to subside. But I mean, we still have people that believe it today, so there's that. But anyway, it's going on to 7, so it's a pretty deep conversation. Now we're talking about the flat Earth. We're talking about flat Earth. It's honestly, I will admit, I'm the first to admit this was the very first thing I discovered. It's a very difficult conversation to have while trying to keep respect on the table, because I vehemently disagree with the idea that the Earth is flat, but it's like I really want to respect the people that believe it, because I did a lot of research on why they believe it, and their motivations for believing it are relatively sound, which is strange. Like mine. Okay, and again, let's go back to some of the other videos that we've already done. My motivation for believing Bigfoot exists is because there's primates. There's primates found on every single, there's primates on every continent, I think, except Australia. We've got too much empirical evidence, and we've never taken the time to research it properly. What you doing, hon?
Nothing.
Okay, so yeah, for a society that only has 650 members, couldn't this be an issue, an alternative viewpoint being highlighted by the media for ratings value? That, oh my God, that is definitely part of it. Because I think it was like bloody Forbes. I think it was like a relatively well-known magazine has posted like 11 articles in the last 10 years about these guys. And it's like, as long as they are living, I don't know. I don't get it. I do not. It's like, I do not get the outrage over it, because honestly, like if I were to have said to somebody when I was in high school, if I were to have said, oh yeah, of course I believe there's aliens, of course I believe that there's life on other planets, I would have been laughed out of the fucking room as a lunatic. So yeah, I don't believe in a flat Earth. I don't have to. Anybody else can believe whatever they want. Yes, they also believe that the Earth was the center of the universe, not the sun, because of the church. And again, to go back to that point, they developed some incredibly sophisticated math to prove it. And until we had the actual visible evidence of Earth's curvature, nobody was ever quite sure what the truth was. So, I mean, even Christopher Columbus sailed around his idea. They accepted that they had a general understanding that the Earth was round among the educated classes, educated classes and ability. Nobody really thought Columbus was gonna sail off the edge of the world. I'm sure some people did, but most didn't. But they still had their understanding of the world was still incredibly imperfect. Columbus thought he was going to leave Spain and show up in India, and instead he found an entire another continent. They had their idea of how big the world was definitely not fully formed. So, and again, so it's kind of interesting. I'm kind of doing the thing. I think I've kind of exhausted all I can really say about the topic, because like I said, I got really caught up in why people believe it versus the science of it, because a lot of the science and the scientific experiments are really flawed, which is really unfortunate, because if these people are sincere, they need to start really focusing on the full scientific picture and not, but then again, you know, that's a whole different problem anyway. So the topic for next week, yes, I've been stirring this little hat. I've been stirring my little witch's hat for like a while. Let's see where we're at. Stop stirring and choose. Okay, what do we got for next week? Let's see what next week is. Okay. So anyway, okay, let's take a quick poll though. Okay. So we already are aware that I believe Effie, tragic Effie is a believer in a flat Earth, and that's your belief. That's why I don't think I want to say anything negative about that. But has anybody changed their minds about where the beliefs are coming from about the? Because we always have this.
Quit stalling everybody.
No. I'm serious. We always have this. Okay, the media has portrayed flat Earth people, flat Earth thinking as something only a lunatic could engage in. And what I found out by looking a little bit further than that was that regardless of whether or not I agree with them, I found some sincerely well-meaning people who held this belief for very interesting reasons that had nothing to do with being screaming nut jobs.
So what's the question?
So has anybody kind of changed their thinking a little bit on that? On just kind of like, I don't know. I'm okay. I'm just interested. Nobody has to answer. I didn't agree with what they were thinking, but I found why they were thinking it to be an incredibly interesting topic. And I'm really, really surprised at some of the mass media conclusions over what is essentially a belief that harms none. And I thought that was very, very strange. I actually find that to be a bigger conspiracy than the belief in a flat Earth itself. Does that make sense? Because I didn't find a single instance where people who believed in a flat Earth were advocating for things that were harmful to our society. I'm just kind of, and I don't know. Yeah, that's where I'm at, Tarot Cat. That's kind of, and yeah, that's where I think. I mean, and I don't see this. Okay, but tragic. The point that I'm trying to make from my side of this is that what I don't have to believe what you believe. It's that simple. But I found some really interesting things about why you believe it. So I thought that was interesting.
We're like on the edge of our seat about next week's
topic. We're on the edge of our seats about next week's topic. It starts with a this is one of my favorites. This is one of my favorites. I don't know. Okay, does anybody know what this is? Does anybody know what an oopart is?
I'm excited about this.
I think Lisa knows.
I know, but I only know because of you.
Okay, next week's is going to be ooparts. I'm waiting, and I'm on a lag, and I have to hold this up for 5 minutes now.
Forever. No idea.
Who knows what an oopart is? I'm just being an asshole. I know exactly what it is. It's not a word. It's a OOPART. Did somebody get it? Oh, I thought I was going to be so slick here too.
Nobody knows. Share.
Out of place artifacts.
This is going to be a fun one.
Has anybody ever heard stories about, there's these coal miners down in a seam of coal, 40 million year old coal, and they find a hammer embedded in the coal, partially fossilized? Have you guys ever heard stories like that? The Baghdad battery, the spark plug. There's a no, oopart. It's not Easter Island. Out of place artifacts. This is dinosaur tracks cross-cut by human footprints. Anything that should not exist within our science and within our history. So it's a huge, huge, huge topic. So if any one particular thing catches anybody's overwhelming interest, we can add it back into the hat as a subject of discussion. Oh my God. There are thousands of these things floating around. There is a spring, like a perfectly formed spring inside a piece of rock. You can see it sticking out, and there are so many things. And some of these things challenge our beliefs in how rock is formed. Like there's one that there's one that's a spark plug encased in a rock sample that's like millions of years old. And so it really challenges our idea of, did this rock somehow form around this thing, and our understanding of geology and rock formation is wrong? Or was there something back, or was there someone or something on the earth that many years ago that we just didn't know? So anyway, what about looking into that too? Okay.
sorry.
Bermuda Triangle's in the hat. The hat is the hat. We decided that we collectively decided, I think, during my first video, that rather than trying too hard to be, UFO, things found at archaeological dig sites that shouldn't be there, giant bones. So it's a huge topic. We're probably only going to touch on a small part of it. I may throw it back in the hat to give it a second chance for more stuff, depending on how everybody feels about the first chat. We'll do next week. Okay. Oh, who's afraid to go to the woods?
I think Sunshine Dawn had a encounter.
Oh yeah.
Oh, with
okay, you got to tell us about that. Wait, didn't you? You did.
Chat.
Did you already? You already told us about this, didn't you?
I think so. When we
yes.
About Bigfoot.
So yeah. So out of place artifacts. If you just do a search for it now and go through images, you will come up with some really. The unfortunate problem is Photoshop is a thing. So some of this stuff is, some of this stuff that I look at and I go, ooh. I'm probably going to focus on things. I'm probably going to focus on trying to look up some things that I remember from back in like the 80s and whatever that I saw in books from when the internet was still new enough that I can recognize going, that's when I saw in a book years ago. So I might kind of limit, because there's archaeological digs of giants that you can tell were photoshopped. So so there's obviously that, but yeah, oh my God, this is one of my. I used to have this website that I would go on to like almost every day and just randomly look something up because this shit is so cool. Okay, so that is next week. Yeah, everybody's welcome here. All we ask for, okay, sometimes we're idiots, but we try our best to be respectful. We expect it in return to the best of everyone's ability, and we all try to play nice. That's the rule. That's the only rule. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, there's scarier things than Bigfoot in the woods. We had a big mountain lion caught on our cameras here recently. We had a cougar on our back fence, and we're like in like the lower mainland of Ontario. We didn't see it. Our neighbor did. We have two little bite-sized dogs. This was years ago and we lived in a different place. But anyway, Who Parts is next week's topic, guys. I'm already looking forward to this. Okay, so like, subscribe, and share because I'm an awesome person. Just like this is like me, please. No, wait, I gotta stop doing that shit. Yeah, so bookmark it, do whatever you need to do. Like, share, tell your friends, tell your family, or don't tell anybody because this gets weird sometimes. See you next time. You guys all have a great week. Have a happy New Year. Have a good New Year. That's on Tuesday night. Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Wednesday is.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. You all have a great day.
Bye.
Great day, afternoon, evening, night, whatever have you. Bye.